Hello, everybody. Welcome to the lecture series on strategic frameworks. This particular video is about the McKinsey's 7S framework. So, in this video, we will discuss about the framework in detail and how organizations can use this framework to the optimum possible extent so that they are able to match their resources with the strategic intent. So, as we all know, strategic management is the process of defining an organization. So, we decide what the goals of the organization are. We decide how we are going to achieve these goals through certain mechanisms. So, we do an internal analysis, we do an external analysis, and we also study about our competitors to know how well our resources are in track and what best we can do out of these resources. So, why is it important to ensure that there is alignment? Only when our goals and resources are well aligned will we be able to rightly achieve the expected outcomes. So, whatever we intend to achieve, we have to make sure we have sufficient resources, or the vice versa. Only based on the resources that we have, only based on the system that is existing inside the organization, we shall plan our strategic intent. So, the McKinsey 7S framework was developed by McKinsey and Company in the late 1970s and early 1980s. So, this is a tool for organizational analysis. So, here we analyze the resources that are present inside an organization through 7S. So, we'll discuss what each of these S is in the later part. So, the major components of this framework are one, strategy. Strategy refers to the direction or scope with which the organization is traveling. What is the focus of the organization at large? The second is structure, which is the organizational hierarchy that is practiced inside. The third is the systems, which is the daily activities that are happening inside the organization. The fourth are shared values, which is nothing but the organizational culture. Fifth is style, the leadership style, how leaders treat the subordinates, and how the goals inside the organization are set and cultured. Next is TAP, so the talent or skill sets that any organization has inside. And the last refers to the skills. Skills are those competencies which distinguish the organization from the other similar organizations. So we can group these elements into two categories, namely hard and soft. So hard elements refers to the first three, which are strategy, structure, and systems, which are visible to our eyes and which are measurable. On the other hand, the soft elements refers to shared values, style, staff, skills, etc., which are not tangible as such. So the first S that we'll be discussing about is strategy. Strategy is the organization's plan. It is the organization's goal at large. What are the core objectives of the organization? What are those factors which differentiate this organization from the other similar organizations? So, what are the market opportunities that are available which this particular organization can leverage for the best? The next is structure. Structure is nothing but the organizational hierarchy or the linear or counterlinear structure that is practiced inside an organization. Who reports to whom? What is the chain of authority that is followed? How is the communication pattern flowing inside an organization? So, again, an organization structure should well align with the overall strategy of the organization. So, there are different types of organizational structures. One is the traditional hierarchical structure. The second is the flat structure where there's nobody reporting to anybody. Everybody directly reports to the boss. The third is a matrix structure, which is a combination of both the above said structures. The third is systems. Systems refers to the workflow or the process that is happening inside the organization. How work happens inside the organization. How the organization is structured in a way that the operations are streamlined and there is optimum productivity which is happening. So there are different systems that are operating inside any organization. So systems can be synonymous to departments. Like there are systems like financial system, there is HR system, there's operation system, there's product system. So each system has its own responsibilities and has its own way of functioning. The next is shared values, which are the subordinate goals, the culture that is present inside the organization. So what are the employee motivation practices that are followed? How ethical is the decision making that is happening inside the organization? What are the sustainable business practices that the organization is deploying? What the employees and leaders of the organization are said to believe and share? So, what is the cross cultural coordination that the organization has? So, all these put together constitute shared values. Next up is style. Style refers to the leadership and management ideologies and the way goals are set inside the organization. As always, goal setting is about having smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound goals. So the goals have to be very pinpoint, they have to be structured in a way that they can be measured. They have to be like realistic, achievable goals and relevant to the strategy of the organization, and there has to be a time frame or deadline within which the goals are achieved. So this is about the goal style. On the other hand, we have something called leadership style. How do the leaders interact with their employees? Is this a democratic organization or an autocratic organization or a charismatic organization? How well do leaders get along? Is there a participatory environment? Are the employees allowed to participate in all the discussions that are happening inside the organization? So, style constitutes the overall leadership policy of the organization and the goal mechanism that is getting operated inside the organization. Next up is staff. So, staff focuses about workforce management, how staff are taken inside, how they are recruited, how they are trained, how they are made to fit the organization. So, why does this matter? Knowing about the staff will help us understand the right skills that are present inside the organization. We'll be able to know whether there's a strong development that is likely to happen, and also to understand whether the employees are rightly aligned with the organization's goals and objectives. So, only if the organizational goals and objectives are well injected or well incepted by the employees, the organization will be able to function in an effective manner. So, what should companies do? Companies will always have to make sure that its staff are well equipped. They are well equipped with all the progresses that are happening inside the industry. They have sufficient scope for learning and development inside the organization. The last S are the skills. Skills, as we all know, refer to the expertise or talent aspects of the individuals. So companies will always have to ensure that the skill gaps are properly met. If there's any skill gap that is identified, it is the duty of the company to ensure there are proper competency mechanisms that are jumping inside to continuously train its employees in a way that the skill gaps are met. So, in order that the right skills are there in the organization, it is important that we know what are the right skills. So, what exactly are the skills that are required for the smooth functioning of the organization? We should also make sure that the organization provides opportunities for upskilling to all the employees. Thirdly, the organization should have a culture that promotes and that celebrates upskilling and growth of its employees. So, how can organizations put this framework to use? So, 7S has multiple applications inside organizations. Like the 7S framework can come into play in a lot of places. Most importantly, in aligning strategy and goals of the organization, in aligning the resources to the strategy of the organization. The second most important utility being restructuring of the organization. When we decide that we are going to restructure or reframe the entire organizational setup, then it's important to identify the 7S, how the 7S are playing inside the organization, and how optimally we can utilize them for the better. The third major utility is to promote positive change management. So, in order that any change that is happening inside the organization is promoted positively, it is important that we identify all the S and we interconnect them. We know the interconnect that is prevalent between the different elements. So, all the 7 elements, as we know, are interconnected. Changing one element will definitely have an impact on all other elements. So, it's important that we understand these interconnections and clearly play along the lines so that there's no contradictions happening between the different elements. So, like I said, this is a chain of interdependence. When we change one element, the entire setup is set to ripple. When one S is altered, then everything else has to change. So, suppose you want to roll out a new strategy inside the organization, then definitely you should focus on your structure. You should redesign your structure in a way that it adheres to the new change. You have to upskill your workforce for the new change. You have to change your leadership style. You should recheck on your culture and values. You should also drive a meaningful change. So, one S changes, everything else should change. Otherwise, the entire system is going to fail. So, this is how 7S operates. So, 7S, in short, is a chain of interdependence of different elements. So, in conclusion, alignment is the secret sauce which takes any organization forward. So, when alignment is done the right way, sure shot, the organization is going to be successful no matter what. So, the leaders today aren't just meant to solve problems. We're not just problem solvers. We are people who are going to take the organization forward, not just solve momentary problems. So if you have to take the organization forward in the right manner, it's very important that you align the people, process, and purpose. Only when there's an alignment between the three elements, only when the strategy gets along aligned with the elements, you will be able to be successful as a new age leader in developing the entire organization at large. So today's leaders are expected to be holistic players. And if you have to be a holistic player, then it's important that you understand the entire mechanism very clearly and leverage it to the maximum possible extent. So I hope this video was helpful to you in understanding the 7S framework. I'll catch you soon with another interesting content. Thanks for watching.